Okay, guys, it looks like Steven Crowder is a little bit back in the mix. Video from Sam Cedar, and she's interesting. I saw her on Tim Pool. She just said something kind of weird. She was good on Tim Pool. I just heard her say something like weird the other day. Whatever. It's not about that. This is about Steven Crowder. And it says, you just messed up big time. Let's see what he did. I mean, we already know he already did, so there must be something even more that he did. So.
Emma wants to talk about this story, but I was like, we should not have stories that make me feel guilty on the show. Like based upon what goes on in Florida. It's, you know, my sensitivities, because a lot of people are saying like that this guy is like sort of like a whole disintegration of his career, his marriage. It was in the wake of Ethan Klein inviting me on his program.
Yeah. People really say, I feel like that had very little to do with it. I think it had a lot more to do with him being seemingly very abusive to his wife. That seems like it might have a little more to do with that. But hey, I'm an idiot, so what do I really know? You know,
confront Crowder, and I just want to say, like, you know, there's a little bit of guilt, but we're going to go forward with this.
But that means you really should not be caving to those kind of leftist soft sensibilities, Sam. You have to expose yourself to
doing like a whistling contest. What's happening here?
Ideas, even if they make you uncomfortable, and information.
Sam?
I use that term.
Folks, this came up in Mediate. This came up in Mediate. Put up the headline, if you would, Bradley. Exclusive: Steven Crowder sent photos of his genitals and exchanged drugs in super creepy workplace. Ex-staffers say. Hey, I wonder.
Let's find out.
Wow, that's very interesting.
See.
What? Oh, okay.
Here, they give a little bit up top, a little bit of talk about Steven Crowder, you know, the divorce, and there had been alleged workplace misconduct threatens. He
all this
offered
all of this just because Crowder, you know, was getting divorced from his wife. From my understanding, he was the one who engaged in it. He initiated it. But he needed to make sure that his conservative audience thought that he actually didn't want the divorce because he's a good Christian. He's a good Christianette. And even though his name's Steven. Right? And then she came forward and it was like, no, it was you, bro. And also trying to like virtue signal, like, no, you shouldn't be able to get divorced from me. That shouldn't be a thing. That's crazy. And then she had to come forward, and she's like, actually, he was horrible to me. He was a real piece of dog shit. And yeah, now he's getting his comeuppance. So this old fucking guy is crazy.
I guess $50 million from Daily Wire, but insisted that he get more. Earlier this month, after repeated suspensions, with Crowder decamped from YouTube.
Wow.
Where it commanded a mighty audience of 5 million subscribers.
5 million?
A less regulated but much smaller alternative. The show's audience has dwindled on Rumble to the point where his last 5 shows have averaged some 288,000 viewers. I mean, that's still pretty good.
That's really good. Yeah,
that's a lot of numbers.
To the extent we can trust it.
To the extent that we can trust it. It's a lot of people watching his show. But then they get into the troubles, apparently. One former Louder with Crowder employee told Mediate that during his time on the show, he received unsolicited, sexually graphic texts that included photos of Crowder's genitalia. Those texts and images.
Oh, guys, it's just boys will be boys. What an idiot. I wonder what the context... Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure Steven Crowder, one of the reasons why he's super homophobic is because he's actually secretly gay. So that's totally possible that it was like some kind of like actual intentional harassment. But I think that he has like he probably has this like really weird like a frat boy attitude where it's like, oh, I'll send this. It's just a joke, bro. But it's like gross. Like just like it's just disgusting. Like, what are you doing, dude? Like and it's immature. It's weird. Like, why send that stuff to people? It's just bizarre. Like, Jesus Christ. I mean, that can get you in a lot of trouble too. It's harassment.
Images were reviewed by Mediaite. In the moment, we dismissed it as sort of frat boy humor. In hindsight, it's super creepy and felt groomer-ish.
It's kind of like all frat boy.
What's that?
Is it groomerish? I don't know. I'm apprehensive when we throw around the word groomer on everything. I very highly doubt that Crowder was trying to sexual. I mean, I'm assuming they're. It sounds like they're indicating sexual grooming. I mean, maybe. I guess, like I said before, he's a closeted gay person, probably. So, but I don't know, man. I kind of doubt that. I just kind of doubt it. You know, it's possible, I suppose. But you know, what else makes them feel that way? Like, did he actually try to get them to send it back or something?
That's like general to frat boy behavior. I feel like at the time it feels like this is just
those
childish.
are not mutually exclusive.
Right, totally.
Things.
But if the frat boy was also, you know, constantly talking about the threat of LGBTQ people and groomers and using his platform in order to spread hate about gay people, the fact that he is sending photos of his genitalia, which media saw as well and confirmed, it seems, to his male colleagues, that's just interesting.
Here's the weird part.
That is true. I mean, if you think that gay people are grooming people by virtue of their existence, I mean, then that means that any type of thing that you're sending by your own logic would be considered gay in some capacity. If you're sending your genitals to men, that must mean. I mean, if your logic is so loose, if Crowder's logic on grooming is so loose, just to include that, then you know what? I suppose he deserves it. So,
I should say.
I mean, maybe it is frat boy humor, but this employee, ex-employee, said, described it this way: like he was always testing people's comfort levels with that kind of behavior. Probably. Because he was the boss, though, and had no accountability. It just continued to happen. There was no one trusted to complain to.
Well, you can't go to his dad.
Exactly. The former employee alleged that Crowder habitually exposed himself to other male staffers, a claim backed up by 2 other sources. So, you know, it wasn't just sending pictures of dick pics to
I'm assuming
to staffers, but he also would do it in person. It's weird that the only thing that I think is weird about this,
he's just so weird. I mean, yeah, I guess it's possible that he was trying to. I don't know. I mean, I don't think that he was trying to groom people, but Jesus, dude, what is wrong? Like, I just don't understand. Like, why are you engaging in that behavior? Like, I don't really get it. It's super weird. Also, like, it's just like, how do you even have the comfort to, like, yeah, let me just show my schmeckle to everybody? Why are you so comfortable doing that, bro? I don't even want to take my shirt off in the fucking boys' locker room when I was a kid. You know, and you're sitting here sending your shit everywhere. It's bizarre.
Because, you know, look, I'm a boss. We all do this. But
it's obviously going to create a culture where you're not comfortable coming forward with like anything. You know, if your boss is your biggest bully, you know, how are you going to feel comfortable coming forward if anything like inappropriate's happening, in general? You know, that's fucking ridiculous. What about the HR department? Although we all know that no HR department exists for the benefit of the employees, and always exists just for the benefit of the company. Make sure that they you know, they don't get in any trouble. So,
it's weird that he would expose himself to all the male staffers, but only sent dick pics to one male staffer, according to this anyways. But maybe there was more. I don't know.
Oh, really?
He only exposed himself to male staffers. It happened all the time. It was a regular occurrence. It usually...
What the fuck is wrong with this guy? So either that means that he's gay, that he's closeted gay, and that he was doing that to try to hit on the male staffers, or, you know, I guess sexual harassment. It's only sexual harassment if you do it to women, I guess. Maybe that's his based take, you know. So he verbally harasses women and then sexually harasses men. Because even if it's not intended to be like some kind of sexual invitation, it's still sexual harassment. You know, I always tell this story, but like I got written up once for sexual harassment. There's a coworker of mine, and we were like friendly at first, and there was one day I was messing with him a little bit, so I sent him a picture of a girl. She was pretty hot, so I sent him a picture of Bailey J, and I was like, "Yo, you think she's hot?" And he's like, "Yeah, I do think she's really hot." And then I sent him another picture, and it was Bailey J with her pants off and just trans woman. This was when this was like 15 years ago, so you know. And later on, we had a little bit of a spat over something, and then, you know, he got suspended for her actually like regularly harassing me. He kept like spraying me with like fucking Windex like every day for months. Like it was a weird prank that like him and another guy at the job did. They sprayed my ass with Windex and I sat down. I was like, oh, girl, it was a uniform. So like, okay, I was annoyed, but I'm like, whatever. And then he just kept doing it for like a month. So I finally reported him after I told him to stop like 10 times. And then he brought those texts in there, so I got suspended. I got suspended for it. My boss was kind of like laughing a little bit. He was like, okay, but we gotta, this is obviously wrong, So obviously I wasn't trying to have sex with him, because only if he was a trans woman, of course. But, it's still sexual harassment. It's wrong.
It happened when he was in a really good sort of manic mood. So while we were all disgusted by it, it was never welcomed. It was preferable to him being in a bad mood and how he treated people in that state.
Oh my God.
Same.
Fun workplace.
Yes.
What's funny is that like that's kind of everybody kind of does that a little bit. Like when everybody's in a bad mood, they take it out on people like a little bit. It doesn't mean like super duper like a lot, but I think that like everybody kind of does that a little bit here and there. They'll take it out. Like you're in a bad day, you're just gonna have like a little bit of a different mood. Although I guess the word taking it out is like a whole different. There's one thing between being in a sour mood versus like punishing people for being in a sour mood. Like when I was at work and I was in a bad mood, I wasn't like pleasant necessarily, but I wasn't like fuck you, do this. I would mostly just be like, I would just not be like super talkative, So I wonder how far that went for him. Maybe he would send his balls and his taint when he was angry.
And then in response to a request for comment, Louder with Crowder CEO Gerald Morgan Jr. Isn't he the co-host, right?
Yeah. Right.
He had some problems apparently way back. I'm not exactly sure what they were off the top of my head, but while Louder with Crowder does not provide details on personal, private medical matters or personnel issues, it's important to note that many of these claims are missing context. Clear misrepresentation.
Is this the reason why he like stopped posting on here? Cause was he banned? It doesn't look like he was banned from YouTube. Is that what happened? I wonder what that is.
Or outright falsehoods. I mean, sometimes there could be a context.
For a dick pic?
Yeah.
I mean,
probably not a workplace context.
Again, Mediaite reviewed the texts and the photos. And
actually, I hired somebody who was a medical student, and I had a weird wart, and I just was like, "Yo, bro, what is that?" And he was like, "No worry, just send me a picture of your genitals, and I'll take care of it. No big deal. No big deal, squeal." Yeah, that's it. Hey, I figured it out, guys. That's what it really was.
Independently verified that it seemed legit. There's really seemingly no question here, especially because we covered this from the New York Post a few months ago, which also spoke about, with multiple sources who worked there, him exposing himself to them and like placing his genitals on their shoulder, for example.
Jesus
so
Christ,
this is the second article, very well sourced, very well researched.
Bro, this guy's an animal. Imagine you're just like, yeah, I'm a conservative and I want to just like, I like Steven Crowder. I watch him, and for whatever reason, you have that kind of a mental disorder of liking Steven Crowder. And then you go there and he just turns out to just be like, he just harasses people constantly and just leaves you in a state of like fear from being, harassed. Especially since, you gotta imagine most of them are incredibly homophobic. So them getting sent to male genitals as a man, that's probably gives them a trauma because they hate gay people so much. Anytime they see a naked penis as a man, they probably start crying because they hate they're so phobic. So you got to think of it like that as well.
Seemingly that verifies this.
I'd encourage Gerald Morgan Jr. to delineate which are the claims that are missing context, which are clear misrepresentations, and which are outright falsehoods, instead of just collapsing them all into one thing.
I'm going to bet that he's not going to do that. Now, this is interesting. Another source close to Crowder also said they witnessed him.
What is he going to be like? That's not my penis, and then show everybody's his actual penis? Is that what he would do to prove it false? Let's see it, Crowder. Make that OnlyFans to prove it. That might be his only way to go at this point, actually. That might be the only success story he can engage in at this point. That's not actually my penis. I'm going to show you. I'm going to make an OnlyFans. Is that that's what he's got to do? Crowder has to make the OnlyFans to prove his innocence at this point. The last step for him.
Expose himself to male staff in the office.
And I know I'm posing if he does that, though, it proves that a lot of women will do sex work, not because they want to, but because they're in dire need of making an income. So, you know, then maybe conservatives will start learning, you know, that it's, you know, hey, maybe it's not a bad thing.
But chalked it up to childish behavior. Now, in this instance, and this is interesting, this is important to sort of...
That's probably true. He probably did, like, it probably is childish behavior, but, like, you don't know how you're, like, you don't know how what you're doing could have a negative impact on somebody. So, like, I don't think he's, like, some kind of, like, groomer predator, but, like, it makes people super uncomfortable, and it's still wrong, and he needs to be punished for that in some capacity. So, it's something to keep in mind.
Like, you know, read these articles carefully. Mediaite uses the pronoun they. Now, there's one of three reasons why they did this. One, the person is non-binary.
Okay, I'm sure
it's conceivable to me. Well,
what is he talking about?
That it's hard for me to imagine a non-binary person working for Steven Crowder. I'm sorry. But it's conceivable that maybe someone decided they were non-binary after having worked there. Or
maybe.
What I think is more likely is that Mediaite is hiding the gender of this person because it's very sensitive.
Probably.
And that doesn't necessarily mean that the gender is female. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's male, but it's a way of trying to create a certain amount of question around it. Because, and listen to the quote, I have personally witnessed that on one occasion, they said. My personal theory is he's a man-child and just thinks it's funny, like boys in middle school playing pranks on each other in the locker room. That, to me, seems to be his mentality. Could it be a power move? Possibly, they said. Possible.
I mean, listen, it is possible. That it's a power move that you can engage in. It's not the worst idea. You know, just kidding. It's a terrible idea. It's a fucking terrible idea. I'm going to show you my balls. That's terrible. Jesus Christ. I don't even know why this is not a good joke.
Virtually nothing that a grown man should do for himself. Wash his own laundry, prepare his own food, buy his own groceries. Most of the time, someone else does that for him.
Well, that is like a bit of a power move, obviously. Although I wonder, like, I mean, you know, if he wasn't an asshole, it might just be like, you know what, I have a really successful show. I'll have my interns, you know, buy me food. You know, I mean, there's a way to do that without being an asshole, though, you know, but it seems like Crowder doesn't understand that. So
he's like a child that needs to be taken care of, and his humor reflects that type of childish behavior. How would you characterize that description?
Focusing on him being a man-child that doesn't do, let's say domestic chores for himself and has somebody else do that. Yeah, interesting.
Well, but I mean, to me, that's an excuse.
I agree.
That to me sounds like someone who is trying to sort of like, maybe, you know, like it's a limited hangout, as it were.
Yes.
And
a source close to Crowder. This is not.
I'm betting that's
a
Gerald
former
Morgan.
Employee. Well spotted, Sam. It's a source.
I'm betting that's Gerald Morgan. I mean, that's my guess, anyways. That's somebody. Maybe it's not Gerald Morgan, but it is someone close to Crowder,
right?
Who is trying to sort of like come up with an alternate theory.
Yes.
And,
because
you know,
the rest of it is former employees being quoted, as opposed to now this is a source close to Crowder,
right?
Whose gender is also being hidden.
And how that could.
So what are they trying to say? Like, what do they think it is? Do they think that he was actually trying to like sexually groom them or something? The power play argument makes sense, but I'm not like they keep saying like, hey, the other people are former employees. This person is somebody close to Crowder, which isn't like exactly the hottest take. I mean, I think that we all kind of knew that. Right, but like, what is the implication? Like, are they saying that what were they saying that he was trying to do? Is my question, right?
It worked as a journalist, like reach out for comment, and so you get the like mention of Gerald up top, but then you get like, hey, on background.
Hey, I'll say this on background.
Yeah,
yep.
can you give me like a little bit more context?
Mm-hmm.
Can I identify you as a source close to Crowder? Yes, you can. But I don't want you to use my gender. That way, it's more obscured. I mean, it may be...
Or maybe they did use their gender. It's his only non-binary friend. You know, you never know. You never know.
It's that CEO, maybe it's somebody else, but it's someone who is trying to mitigate the damage on Crowder. There is no doubt in my mind.
Of course.
Another former employee, and now we're back to former employees, said incidents of general exposure in the workplace were so routine that they became almost unremarkable.
Jesus
the guys just
Christ.
talked about it amongst themselves, and I don't want to say it became normal but it became less of a big deal. So there's a case to be made.
Christ.
He was grooming employees, the former employee said. Stephen may excuse some of that, saying he was friends with some of his employees, But that again draws some questions.
I don't know.
There are power dynamics at play, regardless of how friendly you are.
Like grooming them for what? Like sex? Is that what you're? I just feel like that's not what was happening. Like, yeah, obviously by doing that, it's going to desensitize them to think that the behavior is more normal than it should be. But that doesn't mean that his intention was to groom somebody. You have to show. You'd have to kind of show that. I feel like, I don't know, man, because he's already a bad enough guy. We don't also have to kind of pedo jack him as well. Well, I guess not pedo jacking. It wouldn't be considered pedophilic grooming. I guess it would just be, I guess, regular. I just feel like that's not what's happening, but okay.
Or with staff. Also, don't send your penis in a message.
True, I agree with that.
Oh, there are power dynamics in the workplace, meaning that there's like some power differential in the contract. It's not just one between two equal parties.
This is the weirder part to me, to be honest with you. Like, you know, it's one thing to come and say like, oh, it's just man-child. You know, and like, you know, I've been around comedians and I've seen comedians do gross stuff around there. It's not appropriate in my mind. You know, it's one thing for friends to be doing this out and you know,
dude, what the fuck? Is happening?
I'm not with each other.
Yeah, it's called the bat wings. You pull down your pants and you show your noodle. You know, it's called you show your balls and you spread them out. I learned that on that. What movie was that? That's like an old one. It was where Ryan Reynolds and Justin Long were working for like an Applebee's or something.
Or outside of work. It's another when you're the boss. Yeah. But they're trying to play it off like it's his comedian mentality.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's not
a different ex-staffer said Crowder would often make uncomfortable comments during a men's-only Bible study he held in 2021.
What would he say?
You know, when you're really showing your comedy chops.
Yeah, get those jokes off.
What's the joke?
The staffer said Crowder frequently remarked that, quote, men used to be more physically intimate with each other, and then, quote, would reference a passage from the Bible.
Maybe he was grooming them. Holy fuck.
Abraham.
Dude, no way. This part actually, that's not confirmed, but this part, it's getting weirder. I mean, maybe it's just his humor, but him showing his dick and balls and then saying that the Bible used to say gay people were fucking guys used to fuck each other that seems like it's not helping Crowder. Holy shit, this is not good. Oh my God, this guy's insane.
Abraham's servant put his hand on Abraham's inner thigh to be closer to.
Yeah, it sounds like a true Roman man. Yeah, he's roaming that hand on his friend's thigh is what he's doing.
Abraham's descendants. Balls.
He's putting his hand on that guy's thigh and roaming it up into his fucking genitalia.
That being that your descendants will come from your
look, she's laughing too. It's not just me. Jesus Christ.
Genitalia and your semen and your testicles will.
Pretty hot homoerotic Bible.
Jesus Christ.
Section.
Now look, I have.
I don't know. Maybe he was just kidding, but it's getting weirder. There's a theme of like very, you know, gay humor exclusively. Although he also is very racist too. So you know,
problem with
maybe he's just very edgy. I don't know.
The homoeroticism. I don't know that you should, you know, be heteroerotic or homoerotic at work. Frankly, I don't think you should, particularly with your employees. But it's just fascinating to me that a guy who acknowledges that male sexual intimacy is in the Bible would be so homophobic and transphobic as this guy.
True.
That to me seems a little bit hypocritical.
I mean,
that's all I'm saying.
I'm not saying anything about Crowder specifically, but just to speak to general dynamics, sometimes people who have those feelings overcompensate in certain ways. That does not mean that Crowder is that person. I'm just saying generally that is sometimes something that is exhibited by people who are.
I mean, that's something back in the day. You know, gay guys used to marry women. You know, and they probably very unhappy, which is, you know. And then every once in a while, they'd go down to the gay bar and they'd celebrate with their buddies. That's where they'd get that's what the Bible teaches. That's what people in religious are basically having you do. You know, gay guys get married to women and then they're going to have promiscuous sex because I mean, like, what else get back here. What else can you do, bro? You're not attracted to women. It sounds exactly like Crowder. Just speculation, though.
Or, a little bit
that happens.
Positive.
That happens, of course. I mean, in fact, in FUBAR, we had a whole chapter on anti-gay Republicans. And it very often, the most vociferous homophobes and anti-gay, promoting legislation, turned out to, maybe they didn't self-identify as gay, but they had relations with folks of the same sex.
Hey, maybe they were just dating trans women who hadn't finished transitioning, so technically it's still a woman. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying, dude? Interesting. But yeah, I agree. That's definitely
the former employee who received genitalia photos from Crowder
Who's
shared
Jenna?
a similar sentiment about working for the YouTube star. We've often debated this. It's like any abusive relationship. When it's good, it can be really fun. Most people enjoy the work itself. When it's bad, it's really bad. But over time, most become so numb to it, they don't see how messed up the place is until they get out.
True.
Apparently, back in December of 2020, Crowder was claiming that he was going to retire. He's been having a rough go of it.
Yeah.
Well, so then they also say that he would hand out prescription drugs.
What kind of drugs? Like Adderall or something? Uppers to get them to go through? Because I heard that he was also... Sorry, I'm sweating. I just finished mowing the lawn before I came on stream, and like hands are still sweaty. Like what was... I don't get it. What the fuck? Because... Jesus Christ, that's insane.
Multiple former sources and a source close to Crowder claim the conservative firebrand would offer and ask staffers for prescription drugs like Klonopin, an anticonvulsant used to use seizures, and is also prescribed to treat anxiety. It's like a stronger Xanax, right?
Interesting. There must have been like, if he's giving people that, there must be a lot of anxiety.
I've heard of that.
An anticonvulsant used to treat as well as cannabis gummies and opiates like Percocet. Mediate review text exchange.
Hey, Molly Percocet.
Exchanges between Crowder and former employees confirming these claims.
I wonder if they'll address those.
Interesting. Well, there's some that are out of context, some that are fabrications, and some that are stretches of the truth.
Yeah, right.
There it is. I mean, I just hope things get better over there at, Crowder's operation. I also want to say that if you are a former Crowder employee or a current one, and you want to, be interviewed on the program or help us with anything, please feel free to reach out.
Okay, Crowder, you are one suspicious-looking character. Okay, this is an old picture of this guy. What's the context? What's the context of him sending his dick and balls to people? But what's the context of him bending over and spreading his asshole for everybody to see? What's the context there? Do you have the context? Because without that context, fucking incredible.